This video is a demonstration on how to remove the body shells on an Aibo ERS-7. Now to do that, you'll need to start by removing the silver neck trim pieces, and that requires removing the power button. Now there's a few ways to go about doing this. The way that I like is to put a little piece of tape, making sure it goes down into the hole a little bit, and that way when you pry against the silver trim to pop the power button out, you won't leave any marks or damage. So once the trim is taped off, you're going to want to use a very thin and sharp object to pry the power button off. Now the way I do that is to slide the button barely towards the dog's tail so you have a little bit more room, very gently insert it, and just pry upwards. And there you go. Now it's important to pry a little bit off-center because you can see right there at the front is this plastic tab, and you do not want to break that off. You'll have no way to put the power button back in if any of these tabs break. So with the power button off, you can go ahead and pull that tape back off. You won't need that again. And then we want to remove this one screw right here. And once the screw's out, you can just lift this piece of trim from the back and slide it off of the dog. And then the next step is going to be these two screws here and here. And once those two screws are out, you can just kind of gently use a fingernail to free the trim on both sides. Then this part's a little bit finicky. You have to pull it forward while also pulling up on it. And it does stick, but they usually come out with not a ton of effort. Just gentle but strong force is what you want to use here. So now that the neck trim is out of the way, we can go ahead and turn our attention to the main body of the dog. And the next step is to remove the screws on all four of these hip covers. And once the screws are out, you can just use a fingernail or a thin plastic spudger to pry outwards and remove the covers. One quick thing worth noting is that all four of the plastic covers and screws are exactly identical. You don't need to keep track of which side of the dog they came from. I like using these little 2-ounce sauce cups for putting parts in. It is important, however, to keep screws separate because there's a decent number of different screws inside of an ERS-7. Then once those covers are off, you can go ahead and flip the Aibo over onto a soft surface, and then we want to remove these two screws right here. And with those screws out, you can use a spudger to gently free the side panels, and then lift them upwards and out. After that, you'll want to remove this one screw at the base of the tail, and then you can just pull the tail right off. For the next step, you'll want to rotate the rear legs all the way to their end of range of motion, and then you can see there's a small screw in there holding a white plastic tab. Come on. You can kind of see it in the upper right there. That holds on the plastic for the dog's rear end. There's one of those on each side, and then a screw right there on the back to remove. And one quick thing worth noting, a little stick like this, the magnet on the end, is extremely useful for getting the screws out of tight places like this. And once those three screws are out, you can just slide the butt plastic backwards, and it comes right off. After that, you'll want to rotate the front legs to the position shown here, and then you need to remove that screw right there, as well as another screw right here. And there's two screws on each side. Take all four of them out. So at this point, all of the screws that hold the body shells on have been removed. You can go ahead and extend Aibo's legs outward, making sure that you leave room for that plastic tab to be able to slide through the opening from the hip cover. And to get the shells off, we just gently lift up on one side of the shell, and then repeat the same on the other side. And you'll lift the dog up slightly since they're also kind of latched on the bottom too, and just gently work the shells off of the dog.